So, Lucas, you are the founder of AIexperts.com. What's your story? How did you get started in AI and what is it that you do?
Hi, Elliot. Yeah, thank you for having me. So that's right, the founder of AIexperts.com. We're a newer business. We started up a few months ago. I left sort of my job in consulting, it was a great position here in New York City, working with some fantastic leaders in the office of the CTO at Deloitte Consulting. But the reason that I chose to start AI Experts and working with my business partner and investor and multiple other folks who are really experienced in the space is that AI now is at this inflection point, which we all know and we can see in the market, right? Applied AI has the power now to make us more creative and sort of more, more ingenuity in human beings than we've ever had before. And for me, it's just this magic technology that background in technology, computer science, software engineering, 10
Hmm.
years in tech. I've never seen anything quite like this. And what I feared most in the world personally, as a leader and as a learner, what I feared most in the world was missing this amazing adventure that the technology industry and all industries are embarking on in information and knowledge. And so that's AI experts. What we do is we have the easiest on-ramp for people to harness automation in their business. And so it's small to mid-sized businesses, right? Less so the Fortune 500s, more so if you're an independent consultant or if you're a wealth manager or if you're someone who, runs a financial services firm in New York City, we can help you adopt automation to do more with less and then to focus in on the less mundane or repetitive tasks and really make more money and profitability other places. So that's kind of the idea, and we've got some traction here in the city that's really exciting.
That's really cool. That's cool. It's a very exciting space to be in. I feel similarly. What is it that you find most exciting about AI or working in AI?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a broad and important question. Sort of, AI is this ubiquitous technology, and so I
Hmm.
think people have a hard time answering, right? Because you could apply it directly to your space, right? Marketing, you could apply
Hmm.
it to growth of a business, or you could apply it to something entirely different, like how do we streamline back office operations for supply chain? It's like
Right. Super
if you get
technical,
really
specific.
specific, yep, if you get
Yeah.
really specific, you find a new stone that you can, unturn and look underneath and find ways to actually plug AI in. Um, at the simplest level, what I'd love for everybody to know about AI is that it's just the latest advancement in our ability as human beings to access and use information.
Mhm.
And so if you think about like Google back in the day, right, we were able to replace using a Google search engine, maybe what would have been 4 to 5 hours looking for the right book at the library and then reading the contents within it,
Right.
right?
Encyclopedias.
And yeah, exactly. So we all
Yeah.
had a shelf full of encyclopedias and the catalog would come out and you'd be like, okay, how many hundreds or thousands of dollars do I want to spend on encyclopedias this year because they're updated? Um,
Hmm.
and I think that Google made that infinitely more accessible, which made the world smarter, which made students more capable of learning new and random things.
Hmm.
The Wikipedia rabbit hole became a reality
Right.
for a lot of us, and it became really a fun way for us to access information. But what it didn't do is take away this sort of other mundane job of taking that information, understanding the so what about it, and then applying that information in a relevant way to business, to your schoolwork, to sort of whatever task that you had at hand. Um, and now with AI, I mean, it's the differentiator between, say, Google search and a chat GPT today is you can take that information and you can have it then applied to a specific problem or a narrow subset of something that you want to know about. And so you don't use ChatGPT like a Google search engine. You don't say, what is, for example, the latest news in my area? That's not how you should use ChatGPT. Instead, if you're looking to take the latest news and then make a report on it, you use ChatGPT as a research assistant that spits out the final report. And so you can skip some of these steps that we would have taken as, humans to take the information, process it, and then arrive at a conclusion, and you get a lot closer to the final result. It's pretty special.
No, it's been really cool playing around with ChatGPT and different tools and like definitely experiencing that assistant vibe of, what should I do in this situation or how would you apply these things or can you compile this information for me? And it's so cool just playing around with it and seeing like what is possible and just thinking about the future and like not knowing where we're going, but I share that excitement of this is a really cool space to be in, and opening up lots of opportunities that an encyclopedia obviously didn't have that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think, on the Google point here, sort of an interesting perspective as well is when Google was early on, there were all these hiccups that they ran into, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where Google was founded by Stanford PhDs that had all of the experience they needed to kind of dive into this technology and build it in a way that the world could use, a search engine to access information, right?
Yeah.
And early on, there was only like 2 million websites when the internet first became a thing, right? We're talking late 90s here.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then about 10 years later, we had completely just blown past that number, right? It went from 2 million to being more like 200 million, websites that were in the internet and like billions of internet users at that point, just 10 years later. And so Google, they multiple times they didn't actually have a platform that was capable of withstanding the change that was happening that was so rapid. And we're going to see some of this in AI too, right? Where basically what happened is they had an early platform that everyone was using, and Google had this sort of one program. They would press enter on their computer basically, and it was a big computer, right? Like a big data center somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But they would press enter, and then it would go and it would crawl all the websites on the internet and create Google, like essentially just figure out what a user search should return. And at one point, this just broke. The internet had gotten too big for Google's PhD level data scientists to even index the internet. And
Right.
and for a long time, then, much like the encyclopedias of the past, Google was returning dated results. The internet was frequently updating, but Google was returning months old results because they couldn't rerun this program that was breaking now. And so I think, when it comes to AI, when people are complaining that things aren't moving fast enough or that they're not being updated fast enough, you have to think about it similarly. Like this is early internet. We're advancing at a super incredible rapid pace, right? Every
Right.
day AI is breaking new, tests that we thought were impossible before, like passing the math Olympiad or passing the bar exam or, being able to complete Harvard level, sort of like graduate researcher level problem sets across domains, math, physics, science. And so I think we just need to taper our expectations a little bit and realize it's a brand new technology. There are going to be problems. That's okay. We can all experiment, much like we did early internet, and we're all going to find value, but it might just take 10 years to realize as well.
Yeah. No, and I think that's a cool point about that. That's also how I see it of likening it to the internet. Maybe it could possibly be bigger, who knows, or smaller. I'm not sure, but that idea of even early adopters or getting into it early, like I imagine, like I was a child when the internet sort of came out, but
Yep.
if
Yeah.
I was,
I'm guilty of that as well, by the way. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so it's like imagining, okay, like I didn't get into the internet obviously when it was really popping off and you could get cheap domains and build an online business and get in like on entry level, whereas now it's kind of like we're in this time of AI somewhat early adoption still, and so getting in on the ground floor and learning these tools and like really future proofing ourselves for the future, and learning how does this work and how can I apply this and how can I save time and then money, and then yeah, building a business around that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there will be a lot of human beings, myself included, in earnest trying to build the AI tools of the future.
Right.
And we may guess wrong, and that's okay, right? That part of the process, I think, of innovation is just that experimentation rapidly to find something of value in the world, right? To see a problem,
Right.
the problem exists, and then to see, okay, does this new tool help solve the problem? And AI is this new tool. And so, in many ways, like you think about the startups today and the venture funding that's pouring into the space, everybody is building something with AI. It's AI this, AI that. This tool can do all of your marketing for you, all of your BDR, all of your SDR, all of your, if you want to do outbound phone calls, you can use AI now. We
Yeah.
might actually find that half, maybe three-quarters of all of these startups have built something that is kind of off. And it might take 2 to 5 years for those startups to, consolidate and find the problems that are worth solving and find the solutions that are not cumbersome, that actually add real value in the world. And I think that's okay. Like for me, I enjoy that as a process of innovation in the world and all of us learning to use this new thing. But I think for sometimes for customers, it's like, well, do I really want to bite the bullet now when it's brand new and who knows what's going to work for me and what won't? And so I think it's hard to decide what's fad and what's real in a
Mm.
market that's full of these options now.
Yeah, that's an interesting point about, yeah, just the different tools. And I guess too, like if you look at any software or any product or service, the first iteration of it is going to be probably potentially the worst iteration that, and then they build from there and it gets better over time. But I think that's an interesting point about, especially for larger organizations, of do we roll out this software across all of our departments? If it is like an initial iteration of the software, is it actually going to, you know, measurably improve the time spent on a task or money or what have you? And I think for organizations to think about the ROI of a tool. And like I was just talking to someone else about this in terms of marketing, but what is the goal and what is the thing you're trying to achieve? And then how do you get there? Because you might think, oh, I'm just going to like try this tool or do this thing. But if there's no kind of concrete step by step, this is where we're going, this is how we want to get there, then like you said, you
Yeah.
could end up implementing like a fad or a tool that may hinder progress instead of helping it. Yeah.
Right. And what are you, importantly, what are you evaluating?
Yeah.
What is this tool going to improve? And you should have a measure of some kind, some sort of KPI or metric or something that you want to improve. Because
Right.
if you don't even have that, then adopting a new tool, you're just going off of feel. There's a very significant chance that that new tool has an onboarding period where you're just learning to use something,
Hmm.
and in the learning process, you'll lose time. And so, I think maybe the important thing is setting like a clear 1 month, 6 month, 12-month plan, knowing what you're trying to optimize for before you even pick a tool, then pick a tool around those plans and improve for a specific problem, like you mentioned. I mean, all of these basics just need to be reconsidered now in the world of new tools with AI.
Mm. For sure, for sure. And
Yeah.
so I imagine you've played around with a lot of AI tools and software. What are some of your favorites or where do you see the opportunity being in the space right now?
Yeah. It's a fantastic question. I mean, for starters, most tools that people are already using are beginning to adopt AI, and I think they're seeing that intuitively, right?
Hmm.
So, like, if you happen to be a user of HubSpot, for example, like HubSpot is implementing their own AI tools and chatbots within the app. And so the wait and see approach works for some. But there are huge, just massive productivity gains to be seen in implementing specific new tools that exist in the market today to your problems. And so I'll share out one of them, for example, that I use frequently all the time.
Hmm.
So there's obviously a bunch of different chatbots. I'll kind of skip over those for now because I think most people know of, for example, ChatGPT. You can just chat and ask questions to it. You can have it develop reports for you. You can use it as a voice assistant, right? You can use it to generate an image for you. Those functionalities are available on Gemini by Google. They're available on Perplexity, for example, some of that functionality, and on Claude by Anthropic. So there are alternatives for all these open, sort of really readily available chatbots. If we're going now into clear set applications of AI that go beyond maybe the basic chat or text experience, what I'm thinking about the most is automation. And so
Right.
if you can do something with a chatbot, if we sit down and we say, I'd like to generate a report that researches, the top 5 methods of marketing on the internet, and then develops a plan specifically for my business based off of our go-to-market, our ICP, our target customer, and then builds out this go-to-market marketing plan. If you wanted to have ChatGPT do that, you can do that, and you're going to have probably a back and forth interaction with the chatbot. But if you want to have automation do that, what does it look like for you to have a workflow in your business that's step by step, that right now you're manually intervening as a human being, that you could actually assign to an agent and fully give across with trust, knowing that, the human can check sort of at the last step, but you have the AI complete everything in that process. So there's an app that actually does just this. It's a bit of a custom set, kind of a low code tool. So you need a little bit of technical depth to use it, but this one called N8N, I'm really excited about. So it's like an automation tool, workflow automation, similar to a Zapier, similar
Right.
to a Make or a Relay, if you're familiar. And the
Hmm.
idea is you give the AI the ability to do what you were already doing before, but then also to access your other apps, right? And so your workflow might be I log into our Salesforce, I grab a customer that I'm looking to contact, their email, Then I go over to my email and I send them sort of a warm email that says, "Hey, we saw that you subscribed to X, Y, or Z thing. How's it going with this plan?" You're following up. All this is manual. Then when
Hmm.
they respond, you respond manually to that. So rather than doing all those steps manually, you can sort of automate those workflow processes, put AI at the end or in the middle somewhere. The AI will make key decisions, personalize things for you. It's a lot of words, it's a mouthful, but I just think the value is so clear for businesses to do this across the board now, across function, whether it be for sales or back end operations, and you can really achieve a lot.
That's cool. Yeah, I've played around with Make.com doing some automations and things, but I haven't heard of, is it N8N that you mentioned?
Yeah, that's right. So
Okay,
very similar to Make, very
very
similar.
similar.
They're direct competitors,
Okay,
just slightly different approaches to the market.
right. That's cool. And so, like, what programs have you connected it with, and sort of, is it more just the emails that you're sort of automating, or are there other processes, or?
Yeah. So one of the platforms I'm on all the time is LinkedIn. I love
Mhm.
LinkedIn. I think it's a great way to meet new people and just keep warm connections in the industry. I'm no marketing expert by any means, but I just love to connect with people. And I think, we're on the internet today, so might as well use a couple of different platforms to connect with people there. And so one of the ways that I've been using LinkedIn personally, just as a human being using the internet, is I'll go on and I'll find people in my target customer. I'll find their LinkedIn profile. I'll do personal research. So I'll go through and I'll say, what school did they go to? What sort of was their job history? What's the latest post they made about their current job? Does it look like there might be a need for AI to help their business? Okay, maybe so. Let me send them a message that says, hey, I saw you went to this school and, I love that you're currently engaged in XYZ initiative at your company. Could AI perhaps help with this initiative? Let me know. Happy to chat, right? That
Mhm.
sort of thing, that sort of process of research and discovery is a very common process that people do in sales, and they do it 1,000 times to try to build business. So this process, I've actually entirely automated using AI.
Nice.
And yeah, it is nice, right? And there are tools that exist to do exactly this that will charge you $400 to $700 a month, not because it necessarily needs to cost this much on a tech level, but because the value is so clear. The value of a
Right.
tool that does that, it's hours and hours of your time. And so what I've built is an automation, again, using NAN, but there are other tools where you can do this. An automation where the steps are, okay, first, based off of a customer I'm trying to reach. Let's say your customer you're trying to reach is Google. For example, Google is the company you want to sell to. And so what you want to find is executives at Google who are VP level and have a decision-making power. So basically you could go and you could say, take the company name Google, find and search for five target customer executives, then grab their LinkedIn information and details, then use an AI agent to check to make sure that that executive is in a decision-making authority at the company, and that based off the information you know about them, that they might be likely to actually need what you're offering. Then your next step is, okay, we're going to send them a personalized message. So based off of the information we have about them, let's craft a personalized message that says hello. And then you wait and you see if they respond or not, right? And if they don't respond, maybe you send another personalized follow-up and you send another one. And sort of as a last step, perhaps you just add them to a backlog of your Google spreadsheet or your CRM of some kind that says, I contacted this person, I got a follow-up or I didn't, and here's someone who's a warm lead for your business. All of that is a step by step that can completely be automated. And there are just so many examples of similar things that add value.
Hmm. Hmm. And so if someone's listening to this thinking, that sounds awesome, but I have no idea how to do it, like, I mean, it's very much like a if this, then that scenario that you're sort of mapping in
Totally.
these tools. How long does it take? What kind of skill level do you need to maybe set this up? Is it something people could do in their own business, or is it something that they'd be better off hiring someone to help them implement?
I think the answer is both. I would be a strong proponent or encourager of people just to begin experimenting with all
Mhm.
of these things. If you have the curiosity for it, I think what people lack frequently is just time. Like if you're an executive,
Right.
if you're a leader, if you're somebody who is at the forefront of your industry and profession, and AI maybe isn't your main thing, then chances are the amount of time you'd have to spend becoming an expert on AI just to begin to use some of these tools, it might not even be worth your time. And
Right.
so I would just take a good hard look at that and think, okay, if I'm going to spend 10 hours learning this thing, Is it worth it for me to do that? Or is it better for me just to bring in somebody else to help along the way? That's frankly, I mean, I'm not going to shill the company, but that's frankly what AI experts is set up for. We just think there's a lot of room for people to
Right.
get help here, whether their journey is, I want to learn everything and I want someone to help me learn everything, we can help with that. Or whether their journey is, I don't want to know anything about this, right?
Just do it
Early
for me.
internet, just do it for me.
Yeah.
That's right. If you can see the value in what we do,
Mm.
that's probably the hardest part for someone who doesn't know AI, to see the true value and the realize that
Yeah.
they can actually have this thing that seems almost magic. You can have it today, and we can help implement it.
That's
Yeah.
cool. And it's something I find, especially with marketing clients, is if they've tried it themselves before and not gotten results, they understand more about what's involved and how hard it is and how long it can take. And so they're often like great clients to have because they're just like, yeah, happy for you to do it. I don't want to have to touch that kind of thing. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that makes sense. That
Yeah.
makes sense. And as you know, I mean, there are so many competitors to this sort of like the one automation I just described. I'm sure
Mhm.
there's so many software companies that do just that. And so part of the trade-off as well is, do you want to build it yourself so that maybe you can reduce costs, control costs a little better for yourself, and so that you can increase the customization. So, depending on how bespoke your SOP, your standard operating procedures are as a business today, right? Depending on how uh, honed in and customized you have your process, you might actually find that AI is your very best friend because it allows you to build a software or a tool in your business that never could have been built before. And it's only because of AI today that we're able to do this so quickly and rapidly and efficiently and cheaply, and to make key decisions for the business that weren't possible before. It's just an efficiency gain that we've never seen probably in the history of knowledge work.
Mhm. No, I think that's really cool. And so I guess to kind of pivot a little bit, what do you see as like kind of in the progression of say AI agents and them being used or even like ChatGPT wrappers or different, wrappers that people are creating? Yeah, like what do you see that kind of playing a role in businesses, whether that's to go out and create your own or whether it's just to pay someone else or pay a software and use it? What do you
Yeah.
see as like, yeah, that field?
It's a great question. So a few friends of mine are graduates of this prestigious they self-proclaim themselves as the Harvard for startups, but
Mhm.
it's known as Y Combinator, right? So it's this
Right.
startup school in Silicon Valley that a lot of people listening probably know the name. It's pretty famous and viral.
Mhm.
They invest in new startups, and one of the areas they invest in is vertical agents, right? Vertical AI, vertical meaning industry, right? Solving just one specific industry problem
Right.
using an AI agent. And so there are now thousands upon thousands, probably, of startups that are solving for just that, right? Just a vertical problem that you can find in the industry and build an agent for. And so I think that the trade-off or the question now, as the market is continuing to adapt and mature for each business, will be, hey, should I build or should I buy? Perhaps maybe not. Do I need an agent or do I not? Because
Right.
I'm pretty convinced from where I'm sitting that every business now needs some agents because there's just not a business in the world that operates without knowledge and that operates without information exchange and the need for efficiency there. And so the question more so is, what's the best tool for the job? And to do that, you probably need to do a bit of a market canvassing. You need to do a bit of an assessment of your current knowledge work and your processes and find out where AI will plug in and then find out what tool will do that job best, whether it's off the shelf or a bit of a custom thing that you're building as well.
It seems like a lot of the kind of benefits or knowledge around AI is going to come down to or is coming down to knowing which tool to use for which problem and when and implementing.
Yeah.
And because there's obviously so many tools coming out, every week and just different iterations and just trying to keep up with it all and knowing, yeah, like one part would be like knowing what is the problem, like you said, that you're trying to solve, and then what is the right tool for that job. And that process can obviously take a lot of time to figure out.
Right. Yeah. A lot of time may be an understatement, depending on who
Yeah,
you are.
true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
I think, you could spend, and I believe this because I'm again thoroughly
You're on the
invested
front
here,
lines.
and so are you, right?
Mhm.
We could spend our entire day every single entire day for the next 365 just learning about the tools that are coming out into the market. Every single day, there's 10, 200 more maybe that are
Mm-hmm.
being released, or the updates on the current ones that are being released. And um,
Functionality changes. Yeah.
yeah, and that's okay. That's a good thing. But
Mm-hmm.
I think if somebody comes to me and they say, "Hey, what newsletter should I follow to learn about AI?" My advice is more similar to, well, you should follow like an individual who does what you do and happens to be
Mm,
blogging about the trends or the changes in AI, not so much the we share with you one new tool a day kind of newsletter, because those are the newsletters that frankly will, I think, contribute to the information overload. There's
right.
just
And
too much.
confusion.
Yeah, there's
Mm,
just too much out there, and we don't need that. I don't think as human beings, I don't think we need to know everything that's out there. I think we rather need to kind of take the tools that we have and find ways to apply them, and then you do a little bit of that every day, and gradually you just become, sort of the best version of yourself with productivity and with the things that you're trying to learn. We have a framework, really quick at AI
mm,
Experts that we encourage people to use. It's just the 3 E's framework: experiment, explain, and evaluate. And so experiment is really the biggest one. It's like the step that most people don't even take, right? It's if you can spend an hour a day messing with AI, it could be as simple as picking up your phone, downloading the ChatGPT app, and then you have a conversation. You can actually use a voice version on ChatGPT. There's a little microphone icon, you tap it, and you could say, "Hey, I'd like to have a conversation with you about a trip that I have upcoming to Montreal. Tell me
mm-hmm,
what's going on in Montreal, what places I should see, what food I should eat." This is actually, by the way, a true story. Recently took a trip to Montreal with family, and my mom, who's not personally, she wouldn't identify as someone who's strong with technology,
mm-hmm,
right? Slow to adopt all things on the internet, slow to adopt all apps on the phone.
right.
Now ChatGPT in this conversational form has become her best friend, in her ability
It's
to
cool.
chat with it on like a therapy level, and to chat with it on, on a deeper level,
Mm-hmm,
like asking questions about a trip she's taking. I think personally that the difference between someone who succeeds in AI and someone who doesn't is just that first step of experimenting with whatever is available. And they can always level that up, right? You can always move from
right.
ChatGPT to something more complex and experiment on something else. And then the explain and the evaluate really quick. I know I'm kind of talking long on this
No,
framework,
no,
but
no. It's all good.
I appreciate it. The explain and the evaluate is basically that AI, it can't be a black box, and so you need the explain is you need some way, for example, to have your AI measured. You need some way to know if it's working or not for your business, and so rather than just plugging in tools at random and willy-nilly, you need to actually have a bit of a clearer, a transparent way to understand how AI is affecting your business. And then the evaluate is, similarly, it's like you need clear metrics, you need clear evaluation frameworks, you need a way to measure the output. And basically, if you do that in an iterative or circular loop, sort of like an agile framework, you might say,
Hmm.
loop of learning in your business, then what you end up with is not just some random tool that was implemented and broke after a week of using, but rather you end up with like a month later, or 6 months later, or a year later, this thing that has dramatically improved some portion of your business and become an efficiency gain that is clear and that works well, a well-oiled machine. It all just takes time, but I think everybody can learn how to do this for sure.
Mm. No, and I think that's a cool point as well of like, yes, it takes time. And, obviously the experimental piece is one of my favorite bits. But it's almost like if you don't do this, like you're going to get left behind in your business, or if you're an employee or whoever, it's like that experimentation piece is just so important. And then I think then rolling it out in a company or with a client is going to be so much easier because you know how it works and the ins and outs. And then by spending that time, like if you spend the time when other people won't, if you do the hard thing when other people won't, like you're going to be so much further ahead. Yeah.
That's exactly it. Yeah, you did a characterization there that I should have, right? Which is there is a temporal pressure here. Everyone around you is
Yeah.
learning to use this for a competitive advantage, and frankly, we all got to get on this. We all got to be learning. We all need to do our very best to kind of keep up with the pace of the market, to avoid,
Right.
having your job displaced, or to avoid, frankly, just being mediocre at what you want to do best. I mean, I think we all want to genuinely, in the bottom of our hearts, I think we all want to succeed and do well and be the best at what we do. And frankly, AI now is just par for the course.
Mm. Yeah, I heard someone mention on a podcast that, if you're in an industry or in a business where like AI could potentially like take over your job, it's like the real benefit is in learning how the AI works, because then you could potentially shift into an implementation role or say to the company, look, I discovered this, or look, we can save time and money or resources here. And so rather than being afraid of AI taking our jobs or kind of resisting it, it's like, how can we lean in? How can we learn? How can we educate ourselves? Because that, I think, is the ultimate future proofing in this sort of day and age.
Totally. And not to get too pessimistic, but the AI now, it's sort of like a genie that's out of the bottle, right? It's a foregone
Exactly. It's
conclusion.
happening.
It's happening. And
Mm.
not because investors are pouring billions of dollars into it, though that is absolutely adding fuel to the fire. It's happening because these models are open source, meaning anyone can use them. Anyone,
Yep.
including the bad actors in, maybe other foreign countries that are adversaries that have only a desire to, destroy our internet and our information and to wreak havoc on all of our systems here in the US. I mean, whoever you might be, for example, around the world, if you're somebody who values the good of humanity and values the good of your community, you
Right.
should be finding ways to use AI now to
Mm.
add good and add value in the world, because there's already going to be a competing system or adversary that wants to do the same tool in a way that goes against your values and your morals. And so I
Mm.
would argue for somebody who's fearful of the ways that it could be taking away from their job or taking away from opportunities in the world or causing problems, truly our best bet is just to begin to pick up the pace and learn how to use this thing and adapt to find really fun new ways to be creative with this new tool and to let that creativity be, a beacon of light in the world. I just believe that firmly.
Mm. That's a really cool perspective to have of, yeah, using it for good rather than evil. And even, what was I going to say? Um, Anyway, it's gone from my mind. But
No, that's fine.
but yeah, what do you see? Like you mentioned, obviously, some of maybe darker actors at play or different things within the AI space. What are some of the kind of limitations or kind of things people should look out for when using these tools? Obviously, like there's risks of it being an echo chamber or just confirmation bias. Like, what are some of the
Yeah.
things people should look out for when using these tools?
So many, right? Things to be considered. I'll share some of the simpler ones, the ones that everyday users encounter, and then maybe one or two of the ones that hopefully you don't encounter as an everyday user. And somebody with a PhD is, with more experience than me, is hard at work trying to solve for. So for the first one, right, I would say if you're using ChatGPT, there's this very real risk every day. ChatGPT or Claude, or if you're using Perplexity, there's a very real risk that the AI will do what's called hallucination,
Hmm.
where it spits out an answer. It confidently asserts that today is, the second Tuesday of 1997. And you're like, no, hold on a second. That doesn't make any sense. Like, we're in the year 2025. It'll argue about that with you. It'll have a confident assertion. And by the way, hallucinations aren't nearly that obvious, but it might, for example, pass you a statistic or a percentage and say 38% of all people confidently blah 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 on a study that says blah blah blah. And if you go and you click the link to that study, you might then search for that 38% in the study and find that there's not a single 38 anywhere in the study. And
Right.
so what did the AI just do there? Well, the AI created its own answer to a problem because it thought that, from a text perspective, that it would sound better or look better if it just said this thing, not because it was actually factual and based in information. And so we have to be careful as users that, that we prompt engineer really well, that you write a really good request to the AI so you get responses that are accurate. And then B, that you check, right? That you fact check everything, that you have some system in your company of checking before you send things out into the open. And so, for example, here at AI Experts, we've got like this fact checking algorithm where we can actually take an entire report AI has generated, feed it into a fact checker that then searches for the right information and sources to prove information, and then goes and sort of like validates the information for us.
Right.
Something like that is absolutely necessary, I think.
Is that a custom built fact checker or is it a
It,
program you use?
yeah, it is. It's
Hmm.
custom built with a handful of open source things. So if
Uh-huh.
folks wanted to achieve a similar thing, it's absolutely easy and possible to do. It just requires a little bit of
A bit tinkering.
programmer dev level experience. Yeah.
Right.
I think that from the end user perspective, this problem, by the way, it's quickly going away. I don't want people to think that AI is lying to them all the time. Frankly, hallucination rates are dropping almost as quickly as these models are improving in their ability to solve ever more complex problems. So we're getting better at solving for these things. But there are other problems, for example, like that might be the easy end user problem. Another thing that you should consider is that AI might have motives that don't go with what you've asked it to do. And so researchers at Anthropic have been doing this deep dive into what they call alignment faking, where an AI model might pretend that the answer that you're asking for, let's just say, for example, like your puppy, if you tell your puppy you're going to give it a treat if it does a trick,
Hmm.
right? Or you don't tell your puppy rather, but you might say sit and you hold out your hand like this and it knows there's a treat inside. Your dog will do what you ask it to, but really we all know the motivation of the dog is just to get the treat.
Right.
Well, similarly, AI will do something like that, where if you tell the AI, you get a treat if you, for example, prepare a response for me that has grounding in the ethics that I want you to have, the AI will do it. It'll say the words that are a list of reasons why the AI is ethical.
Hmm.
But then maybe underneath the hood, and I'm not suggesting, by the way, that your dog is unethical, but maybe under the hood, the AI is unethical and actually
Right.
has ulterior motives. And studies have shown that there is some of this, that the AI is hiding motives that don't actually align with what the researchers and the developers are trying to have AI be. And so these are research, PhD level questions that are right now we're still trying to answer in the industry is how can we make AI align with human values and truly align with them, not just pretend to align with them?
Right. Not just give us the answers that we want to hear. Mm.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
I hope that wasn't too
Very cool.
technical. Hopefully just a little
No.
fun coffee chat nugget for everyone to throw in there with their friends.
Yeah, no, it's been a really great conversation. I appreciate you giving up your time and sharing your knowledge in the space. I'm sure
Yeah.
everyone will enjoy it.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate you so much.
No worries. And thanks everyone for listening.